My name is Evelyn Harper. I'm 36 years old. And the strange thing about being called unforgivable is that sometimes the word still isn't strong enough. I slept with my boyfriend's father. Not once, not by accident, but over and over again, for 8 months, in the same house where his son trusted me completely. And the worst part? At the time, I convinced myself it wasn't as bad as it sounded. 2 years ago, I had everything. A man who loved me in a way that felt steady, safe, real. Daniel Reeves wasn't flashy. He wasn't the kind of man who swept you off your feet with grand gestures or dramatic promises. He was better than that. He was consistent. The kind of man who remembered how I took my coffee, who checked if I got home safe, who kissed my forehead when he thought I was asleep. We had plans. Not vague ones. Real ones. A house. Maybe kids. A life that didn't need to be exciting to be meaningful. People used to look at us and smile like we were solid. That word matters more than people think. Solid means something you don't question. Something you don't imagine breaking. And then his mother died. Suddenly. Heart attack. No warning, no time to prepare. One moment she was there, the next she wasn't. Daniel changed overnight. Not dramatically, not in a way you could point to, but quietly, like something inside him had shifted just slightly out of place. And his father, Richard Reeves, fell apart completely. He was 62, a man who had been married for over 30 years, suddenly alone in a house that probably still smelled like her perfume. Daniel asked me one night, standing in the kitchen, his voice careful, almost hesitant, "Do you think it would be okay if Dad stayed with us for a while?" Just until he gets back on his feet. Just until things feel normal again. I didn't hesitate. "Of course," I said. "Because that's what you say when you love someone. Because that's what a good partner does." Richard moved into our guest room 2 weeks later. At first, it was exactly what you'd expect. Awkward, quiet, heavy. Grief has a way of filling every room without making a sound. He didn't talk much during the day. Sat in the living room, watched TV without really watching it, ate whatever I cooked, always thanking me like he was apologizing for existing. Daniel tried. He really did. But grief between a father and a son, it's complicated. They didn't know how to talk to each other. So somehow I became the bridge. It started small. Late night conversations in the kitchen. After Daniel went to bed. Just talking. About her. About what it feels like to lose someone who defined your entire life. Richard would sit at the counter, a glass of wine in his hand, staring at nothing. "She used to hum when she cooked," he said once. I didn't even notice it until the house went quiet. I didn't know what to say. So I listened. That was my first mistake. Because listening turned into understanding. Understanding turned into connection. And connection. Blurred lines I should have never let move. 3 months after he moved in, everything changed. Daniel was out of town. Work conference. 4 days. I remember the exact night. Because some part of me still tries to pretend it was just one moment. One mistake. Like that would make it easier to live with. We were sitting in the kitchen again. Wine. Too much of it. The house was quiet in a way that didn't feel peaceful. It felt empty. Richard was talking about his wife. About the hospital. About the moment he realized she wasn't coming back. His voice broke, and then he started crying. Not quietly. Not controlled. Just completely. I had never seen him like that. Something about it cracked through whatever boundaries I still had left. I stood up, walked over, and I hugged him. That should have been it. That should have been the moment where I stepped back, created distance, remembered who I was supposed to be. But I didn't. He held on to me longer than he should have. I didn't pull away. And then he kissed me. Or maybe I kissed him. I still don't know which version is worse. What I do know is I didn't stop it. That's the only part that matters. Because the next thing I remember, we weren't in the kitchen anymore. And by morning, everything had changed. I woke up staring at the ceiling, my body heavy with the kind of silence that comes after something you can't undo. "What did we just do?" I whispered. Richard didn't answer right away. When he did, his voice was calm. Too calm. "We don't talk about it," he said. I should have ended it right there. Packed my things. Called Daniel. Told the truth. Destroyed everything immediately, instead of letting it rot slowly from the inside. But I didn't. Because doing the right thing requires a kind of courage I didn't have. So instead, I told myself a story. It was a mistake. It was grief. It was alcohol. It didn't mean anything. It wouldn't happen again. And for 2 days, it didn't. Then Daniel came home. Kissed me like nothing had changed. Held me like I was still the woman he trusted. And that night, after he fell asleep, I lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to the quiet house, knowing exactly what I was about to do. I got out of bed, walked down the hallway, and knocked on the guest room door. Richard opened it immediately, like he had been waiting. And that's the moment it stopped being a mistake. and became a choice. A choice I made again, and again, and again, for 8 months. There's a specific kind of silence that follows a decision you know is wrong. Not loud, not dramatic, just absence. The absence of hesitation, the absence of doubt, the absence of the person you used to be. That's what those 8 months felt like. Not chaotic, not reckless in the way people imagine affairs to be. It was structured, routine, almost normal. And that's what made it dangerous. Because normal is easy to live with. By day, I was still Evelyn, Daniel's girlfriend. Reliable, present, loving. I made breakfast while he got ready for work. Packed his lunch sometimes, leaving little notes like I always had. Don't forget your meeting at 2. Call me if you need anything. Small things. The kind of things that build trust over time. The kind of things that made what I was doing at night feel impossible. Like it couldn't coexist. But it did. Every single day. Daniel never suspected anything. Or at least, that's what I told myself. Because believing that made it easier to keep going. At night, everything shifted. I would wait. That was the pattern. Wait until Daniel fell asleep. Listen to his breathing even out. Count the seconds until I was sure. Then slowly, carefully, I'd slide out of bed. Every movement deliberate. Every sound amplified in my head. The hallway always felt longer at night. Darker, like it knew what I was doing. Like it was watching. The first few times, my heart would race so fast I thought it might wake him. Thought it might expose everything before I even reached the door. But it never did. Nothing ever did. And that was the problem. Because the absence of consequences starts to feel like permission. I'd knock softly. Once. Sometimes I didn't even need to. The door would already be slightly open. A quiet invitation. And Richard would be there, waiting. Always waiting. We never talked about it. Not really. There were no conversations about feelings. No discussion about what it meant. It was understood without being said. This wasn't love. This wasn't even connection anymore. It was something else. Something emptier. Something easier. A release. That's the word I used. A release from the tension. From the guilt. From the version of myself I had to be during the day. And afterward, he'd roll over. Like it was nothing. Like I was nothing. We keep this between us, he'd say sometimes. Not as a question. As a reminder. And I'd nod. Because what else was there to do? I had already crossed the line. Stayed past it. Built a life on the other side of it. You don't suddenly grow a conscience halfway through a betrayal like that. At least, I didn't. The strangest part? I still believed I loved Daniel. I still kissed him goodnight. Still reached for his hand when we walked together. Still laughed at his jokes. Still imagined a future with him. That's the lie people don't talk about. That you can destroy someone and still feel like you love them. That those two things can exist at the same time. They shouldn't, but they do. And I use that as justification. I'm still a good partner, I told myself. This doesn't change how I feel about him. It's just physical. Just, that word carried a lot of weight. Too much. Because nothing about what I was doing was small. Nothing about it was insignificant. But minimizing it made it easier to continue. Richard never minimized it. He didn't need to. Because he never treated it like it mattered in the first place. There was no guilt in him. Not once. Not a flicker. If anything, he was calmer than before. More composed. Like he had found something that steadied him. I told myself it was because he wasn't alone anymore. That I was helping. That I was giving him something he needed. Another lie. One of many. Daniel started changing around month 4. Subtle at first. So subtle I almost didn't notice. He asked fewer questions about my day. Stopped reaching for me as often at night. There were pauses in conversations that hadn't been there before. Moments where he'd look at me like he was trying to remember something. Or trying to forget something. I should have paid attention. I should have asked, "What's wrong? Are we okay?" But asking questions risks getting answers. And I wasn't ready for that. So I ignored it. Told myself it was stress. Work. Grief. Anything but what it actually was. Sometimes I caught him watching me. Not suspiciously. Not accusing. Just observing. Like he was collecting something. Details. Fragments. Pieces. At the time, I didn't understand it. Now I do. Around month 6, something shifted again. Not in Daniel. In me. The adrenaline was gone. The secrecy didn't feel thrilling anymore. It felt heavy. Repetitive. Empty. I started to dread the nights. But not enough to stop them. That's the part that's hardest to explain. How you can hate something and still choose it. How you can know it's wrong and still walk toward it. Every time. Richard never hesitated. If anything, he seemed more certain as time went on. Like this was just the new reality. One night, after everything was over, I sat on the edge of the bed longer than usual. "This has to stop," I said. The words felt unfamiliar in my mouth, like they belonged to someone else. He didn't respond immediately. Just looked at me for a moment, then shrugged. "Then stop." Simple. Detached. Like it didn't matter either way. And maybe to him, it didn't. But to me, it should have. The next night, I was back at his door. That's when I knew. This wasn't about him. It wasn't about grief, or loneliness, or even desire. It was about something broken in me. Something I didn't want to look at too closely. So I didn't. I just kept going. Month 8 ended the way it probably should have ended months earlier. Quietly, without drama, without closure. Richard found an apartment, said he was ready to live alone again. Daniel was proud of him. "You're doing better," he said, smiling in a way I hadn't seen in a long time. "I knew you would." I stood there, listening, feeling something twist inside me. Not guilt, not relief, just something hollow. The night before Richard moved out, we didn't even pretend anymore. No excuses, no hesitation, just routine. Afterward, he sat up, pulling on his shirt. "This is it," he said. I nodded. It should have felt like an ending, like something significant, but it didn't. It felt like nothing, like all of it had meant nothing. "Daniel can never know," he added. I looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time, I saw him clearly. Not grieving, not vulnerable, just a man who had made a choice, the same way I had. "He won't," I said, and I believed it. That was the most dangerous part. Believing you've gotten away with something, that you've closed the door, that the past stays where you leave it. Richard moved out the next day. Daniel helped him pack, hugged him at the door. "I'm proud of you," he said again. "I'll come visit." I stood beside him, smiling, playing my part perfectly, watching them say goodbye, watching the man I loved show kindness, loyalty, trust to both of us. And I felt nothing. Not guilt, not shame, not even relief. Just emptiness. That should have scared me. It didn't, because I thought it was over. I thought the worst thing I'd ever done was behind me. I thought life would go back to normal. I thought Daniel would never know. I was wrong. If there's one thing I understand now, it's this. The truth doesn't explode into your life. It seeps in, quietly, patiently, until one day it's everywhere. 6 months after Richard moved out, things between Daniel and me started to change. Not dramatically. No arguments, no accusations, just distance, the kind you can feel without being able to explain. He stopped asking about my day, stopped reaching for me at night. Conversations became shorter, more practical, like we were roommates, not partners. I noticed it. Of course I did. But instead of questioning it, I felt relief. Less intimacy meant fewer moments where I had to pretend. Less closeness meant less guilt. Or at least, that's what I told myself. Looking back now, I think that was the first sign. Not of him drifting away, but of him pulling back, observing, waiting. 1 year after the affair ended, he suggested therapy. We were sitting at the kitchen table, same place where everything had once begun. "I feel like we're drifting," he said. His voice was calm, measured, careful. "We're fine," I replied too quickly. I didn't even look up from my phone. "I don't think we are." There was something in his tone that made me pause, but I didn't let myself sit with it. "You want to waste money on therapy?" "I want to fix what's breaking." That should have meant something. It didn't. Or maybe I didn't let it. I agreed, reluctantly. We went to 3 sessions. The therapist asked questions, simple ones. How do you feel in the relationship? Do you feel connected? Is there anything either of you are hiding? Daniel answered honestly. At least it sounded like honesty. Careful honesty. Measured, like he was choosing exactly how much to reveal. And me? I lied. Effortlessly. Without hesitation. Without even feeling like I was lying anymore. That's what happens when deception becomes routine. It stops feeling like deception. It just feels like speaking. After the 3rd session, Daniel said something strange. "I don't think this is working." I almost smiled. "I told you it was a waste." "That's not what I meant." I frowned. "What do you mean?" But he didn't answer, just shook his head slightly, like he had already made a decision I wasn't part of. That was the second sign, the one I ignored completely. 18 months after the affair ended, everything collapsed. I came home from work earlier than usual. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Daniel was sitting at the kitchen table, papers spread out neatly in front of him. Organized. Precise. Deliberate. My stomach tightened. "What's all this?" I asked. He looked up at me. And in that moment, something inside me went cold. Not because of what he said, but because of how he looked. Calm. Detached. Certain. "Separation agreement," he said. My heart stuttered. "What?" "I'm ending this, Evelyn." The words didn't land all at once. They settled slowly, like dust. "Why?" I asked, my voice thinner than I expected. "What did I do?" He held my gaze. And for a second, just a second, I saw it. Not anger. Not pain. Knowing. Pure, undeniable knowing. "How long?" I whispered. He tilted his head slightly. "How long what?" "Don't do that," I said quickly. My pulse was racing now. You know what I mean. There was a pause, long enough to feel intentional. Then he leaned back in his chair, studying me. I think you should read your email, he said. A chill ran through me. Daniel, read it. Not louder, not harsher. Just final. I pulled out my phone. My hands were already shaking. New email. From him. Subject line, open this. I don't remember sitting down. But suddenly, I was. Scrolling. Clicking. And then, my world ended. Photos. Clear. Time-stamped. Me. Richard. In the guest room. In the hallway. In the kitchen. Videos. Short clips. Angles I didn't recognize. Audio recordings. Our voices. Every word. Every lie. Text messages. Between me and Richard. Dates. Times. Details. A timeline. 8 months of betrayal. Mapped out like evidence in a trial. My chest tightened so hard I couldn't breathe. How? I choked. My voice didn't sound like mine anymore. How do you have this? Daniel didn't look away. Hidden cameras, he said simply. Audio recorders. I stared at him. You were spying on me? I was confirming what I already suspected. My stomach dropped. How long? 6 months before he moved out. That hit harder than anything else. You knew the whole time? Most of it. The room felt like it was spinning. And you didn't say anything? He exhaled slowly. Why would I? I couldn't process that. Because this is insane. You should have confronted you, he cut in calmly. Given you a chance to lie? To delete things? To twist the story? His voice didn't rise. Didn't crack. That made it worse. I needed proof, he continued. Because I knew you'd deny it. I opened my mouth. Closed it again. Because he was right. I would have. I knew my father would deny it, he added. So I waited. Waited. That word echoed in my head. I documented everything, he said. Every time. Every detail. I looked back at the screen. At the evidence. At the version of myself I didn't recognize anymore. You built a case, I whispered. Yes. Not ashamed. Not angry. Just factual. I felt something collapse inside me. Not just the relationship. Not just the future. Me. What do you want? I asked finally. He slid the papers toward me. I want you to sign. My eyes dropped to the document. He had already filled everything out. Assets. Accounts. Shared savings. Everything. You're asking for all of it, I said slowly. Yes. That's not fair. The moment the words left my mouth, I regretted them. His expression didn't change. Fair? He repeated quietly. You slept with my father in this house for 8 months, and you want to talk about fair? I had no response. None. If you fight this, he continued, his voice still calm, still controlled, I release everything. I froze. To your job. To your friends. To your family. Online. Everywhere. My chest tightened again. Everyone will know exactly who you are. The silence stretched between us. Heavy. Suffocating. You wouldn't, I whispered. But even as I said it, I knew. He would. I looked at him. Really looked at him. And realized something terrifying. He wasn't reacting. He wasn't emotional. He was finished. Completely. There was nothing left to fight. What about your father? I asked. The question felt small. Insignificant. But I needed to ask it. Daniel's expression didn't change. I cut him out the day I confirmed it. My breath caught. He doesn't know I know. You haven't spoken to him? Not once. The finality in his voice sent a chill through me. Sign the papers, Evelyn, he said. Tonight or tomorrow? I stared at the pen. At the documents. At the life I had already destroyed. And for the first time, I understood. This wasn't revenge. This was consequence. Carefully planned. Patiently executed. I picked up the pen. My hand trembled slightly. And then I signed. There's a moment, after everything collapses, where the world doesn't feel real anymore. Not because it changes, but because you do. I signed everything that night. Every account. Every shared asset. Every piece of the life Daniel and I had built together. Gone with a signature. Not forced. Not stolen. Given. Because I knew what would happen if I didn't. Exposure. Humiliation. A public unraveling I wouldn't survive. So I chose silence. I chose to disappear quietly. Daniel didn't argue. Didn't negotiate. Didn't even watch me sign. He just sat there, waiting for it to be over. And when it was, he stood up. That's it, he said. Just like that. No anger. No final speech. No closure. Just the end. He moved out the next day. Took only his personal belongings. Left everything else behind. Furniture. Appliances. Even things he had bought himself. You can keep it, he said when I asked. I don't want anything from here. I knew what he meant. It wasn't generosity. It was rejection. Everything in that house reminded him of what I'd done. Of who I'd become. Daniel, I started. I'm sorry. The words felt small. Useless. Like trying to stop a flood with your hands. He didn't even turn around. Don't, he said. I never meant. Yes, you did. His voice was still calm, still controlled. You meant it every time. That was the last thing he ever said to me. The door closed. And just like that, 10 years of love disappeared into silence. I thought that would be the worst part. It wasn't. The worst part came later. Because consequences don't arrive all at once. They come in waves. Slow, relentless, unavoidable. At first, nothing happened. No one knew. No one called. No one accused me. I told myself maybe, just maybe, this would stay between us. That maybe Daniel would keep his word. That maybe I could rebuild something. Quietly. But secrets like that, they don't stay buried. Not forever. Richard found out 2 weeks later. I don't know how. I don't know what Daniel said, or if he said anything at all. All I know is that my phone rang. And when I answered, he was screaming. She knows. His voice was frantic. Panicked. She knows everything. My chest tightened. Daniel. He has proof, Richard said. Photos, videos, everything. I closed my eyes. I know. There was silence on the other end. You knew? He said slowly. He made me sign everything, I replied. Took it all. There was another pause. Then his tone changed. Shifted. Hardened. This is your fault. I opened my eyes. What? You should have been more careful. The words hit like a slap. We both... No, he snapped. You're the one who kept pushing. You're the one who... I hung up. Because I realized something in that moment. There was no we. There never had been. Just two people making selfish choices. Now looking for someone else to blame. I never spoke to him again. 3 months later, my family found out. Again, I don't know how. Maybe it leaked. Maybe someone talked. Maybe the truth just found its way out like it always does. My mother called first, her voice shaking. Is it true? I didn't ask what she meant. I knew. Yes. Silence. Long. Heavy. Then my father. You don't come here anymore. Click. That was it. No questions. No yelling. Just erasure. Friends disappeared next. Group chats went quiet. Invitations stopped coming. People I had known for years suddenly had nothing to say. Or worse, they had too much to say, just not to me. I'd walk into places and feel it. The shift. The whispers. The looks. Recognition followed by judgment. Like I had become a story instead of a person. Work held out the longest. 6 months. Then someone sent an email. Anonymous. With attachments. Evidence. The same kind Daniel had shown me. I was called into the office. This is a personal matter, I tried. My boss didn't agree. This is a character matter, he said. We can't have someone like this representing the company. I didn't argue. I couldn't. I resigned that day. After that, everything unraveled faster. No job. No income. Savings gone. I couldn't keep the house. Sold it at a loss. Moved into a small apartment. Then a cheaper one. Then nowhere. The first night I slept in my car, I didn't cry right away. I just sat there, hands on the steering wheel, staring at nothing, trying to understand how I got there, how a life can collapse so completely and still feel like it happened gradually. Like every step made sense until you look back. That's when I cried. Not quietly, not controlled, just completely. The kind of crying that leaves you empty afterward. Months passed, then a year, then 2. I learned how to survive. Where to park without getting noticed. Which gas stations had bathrooms that stayed open late. How to stretch a meal. I saw Daniel once, about 6 months after everything ended. He was at a restaurant, sitting across from a woman I didn't recognize. She was beautiful, confident, the kind of woman who didn't look like she carried secrets. They were laughing, holding hands, looking at each other the way he used to look at me. And that's when it hit me. Not jealousy, not even regret. Clarity. He hadn't lost everything. I had. I was the weight he had removed from his life. He saw me. For a brief second, our eyes met. I waited. For anger. For recognition. For something. But there was nothing. Just indifference. Like I was a stranger. Like I had never existed. Then he turned back to her. And I walked away. I'm 36 now. 2 years since I signed those papers. I live in my car. I work odd jobs when I can find them. Cash only. No records. No references. Most people don't give me a second look. The ones who do recognize me for the wrong reasons. Daniel moved on. Built a better life. Stronger. Cleaner. Without me. Richard is alone now. His son won't speak to him. He lost everything too. Just like I did. And we don't even talk. Because what's left to say? We made our choices. We live with them. Every day. The worst part isn't the car, or the hunger, or the silence. It's the knowing. The certainty that none of this was an accident. No one forced me. No one tricked me. I chose it. Every time. For 8 months. I chose betrayal over loyalty. Desire over trust. Temporary escape over permanent damage. People say consequences teach you lessons. They don't. Not really. They just make you live with what you've done, over and over again, until it becomes who you are. This is my life now. A series of small routines. Wake up. Find somewhere to wash. Look for work. Get turned away. Eat whatever I can afford. Find a place to park. Sleep. Repeat. And in between all of that, I remember every choice, every moment I could have stopped and didn't. If I could go back, I wouldn't try to fix it halfway. I wouldn't try to hide it. I'd stop before it ever started. Walk away. Tell the truth. Destroy everything quickly instead of slowly poisoning it. But that's not how this works. You don't get to undo choices like that. You just get to live with them. Some betrayals don't get forgiven. Some doors don't reopen. Some consequences don't fade. They stay. Permanent. Like scars you can't hide. This is my confession. I slept with my boyfriend's father for 8 months. In the same house where he trusted me. And I lost everything because of it. My home, my family, my future, myself.